5 spine-chilling true stories of sinister school lockdowns exposed. Discover the haunted secrets. The air felt thick with dread as Lisa watched her son, Ethan, scamper towards Maplewood Elementary, his backpack bouncing against his small frame. Maplewood seemed idyllic, tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, but an undercurrent of fear had begun to swirl beneath its glossy surface. Recently, the school district had been rocked by a series of unsettling lockdowns that rattled parents' nerves. With every lockdown, whispers echoed through the hallways. "Did you hear about the principal who vanished?" They would say, eyes wide with terror, as if simply mentioning his name could summon spirits from the netherworld. On a calm morning, after Ethan waved goodbye, Lisa felt the familiar wave of safety envelop her like a warm blanket. Yet the serenity was misleading. Each day at the diner, where she wiped down tables and refilled coffee mugs, she caught snippets of hushed conversations among fellow parents. Their faces were tense, eyes darting, as if they were part of a secret club no one dared to join. "They say he died in the basement," one mother said, her voice a hushed whisper, before glancing around nervously. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just last week, another lockdown drill sent parents into a frenzy, children gripping their classmates' hands like lifelines. Lisa's heart raced as she recalled Ethan's voice, nervous yet brave, when he recounted how he could hear muffled whispers and shuffling during the drill. Her stomach turned as she imagined him trapped in that hallway, shadows creeping closer. That grim afternoon, during the drill, Ethan stumbled upon a hidden door behind the gym, leading him to a dusty basement filled with forgotten memories. As he brushed off cobwebs, he discovered old photographs of the once-cherished principal, now a figure of nightmares, a strange smile twisting across his face. His journals, tattered and ink-smudged, spilled out musings both twisted and profound, and tales of eerie happenings within the school's walls. With each lockdown that followed, panic spread like wildfire in Maplewood. Every creak of a floorboard or whoosh of a wind felt like a ghostly whisper of the past coming to claim its prize. Lisa's heart pounded in the nights that followed as she observed shadows of fear creep into conversations with fellow parents. They seemed to harbor a secret, a collective trauma thicker than the gossip that had sent chills through the town. The authorities, once trusted, refused to address the darkness pooling around them, reinforcing her escalating paranoia. One thunderous night, as rain lashed against windows, Lisa shrieked at the sudden knock at her door. Heart pounding wildly, she opened it to reveal a figure cloaked in darkness. Could it be? The face was so familiar, belonging to someone she thought was beyond reproach, a pillar of the community. The storm raged outside, mirroring the chaos within as the realization struck her. The evil cloaked in history was perhaps much closer than she dared to believe. Trapped in a decisive moment, will Lisa resolve to unearth the horrifying truths before the grip of fear tightens around her and her son? The storm outside represents a rising tide of terror. Would anyone be left to tell the tale if it continued? The knock echoed in the stillness, reverberating through Lisa's bones. She hesitated, gazing into the darkness as droplets splattered against her threshold, reflecting the fury of the storm raging around her. Who stood behind that door? The familiar yet unsettling face that she recognized sent a chill coursing through her veins. It was Mr. Sullivan, the former principal, whose sudden disappearance had become the town's sordid whisper. The shadow loomed larger as he stepped forward, the outline of his figure gradually taking shape. "Lisa," his voice was a raspy murmur, twisted by the wind. "We need to talk." Panic gripped her throat. What could possibly require a conversation with someone who had vanished? She'd heard countless tales about his past, fables wrapped in menace and danger, but this felt alarmingly real. She took a step back, instinct urging her to retreat, yet a deeper urge compelled her to stay. Did he possess answers? Pieces of the puzzle that haunted Maplewood? Please, just hear me out, he insisted, voice trembling slightly. Lightning flashed, illuminating his face for a split second. A glimmer of desperation danced in his wide eyes, but they were tainted with something darker, something she couldn't bear to confront. What happened in the school, Mr. Sullivan? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He glanced around nervously, as if fearing eavesdroppers lurking in the shadows. There are things, secrets buried deep within those walls. You think the lockdowns are random? They're a warning, he said, urgency creeping into his words. It's all connected, the whispers, the happenings, even the students. Her breath hitched. What do you mean? What have you done? An unsettling grin flickered on his face, accompanied by a slight twitch in the corners of his mouth. I didn't do anything. It's what happened to me, what I discovered. Dark forces lie within that school, Lisa. He leaned closer, and she could smell the damp and decay clinging to him. Ethan stumbled upon the door, didn't he? That door leads to the heart of it all. Her heart raced as memories flooded her mind, the flicker of Ethan's courage, the desperation in his voice as he spoke of whispers in the dark. The journal's shredded writings, the way time felt warped when trapped within those dreadful basement walls. Listen to me, he urged, grabbing her arm tightly, sending flashes of fear through her. You have to get Ethan away from there. Tonight. Before it's too late. The wind howled, adding to the cacophony of her racing heart and the chaos in her mind. She felt suspended in time, torn between the chill of a storm outside and the heat emanating from the man in front of her. Before she could respond, his eyes darted to something behind her. Gripped by instinct, she turned, feeling as though the weight of the world hung in the air. A low creak echoed from deep inside the house, a sound that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Get out. Now! He yelled, panic lacing his voice, with fear gnawing at her. She didn't need to be told twice. Lisa bolted, yanked the door wide, and dashed into the storm, her mind screaming for Ethan. But what could possibly pursue them from the nightmares concealed within those walls? As she fled into the chaos of the storm, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, not just by Mr. Sullivan but something far worse. The past was clawing its way back, and nothing could prepare her for the reckoning that awaited. Would she uncover the truth before it consumed them both? The storm shrieked, a blaring warning, as she sprinted towards the darkness from which she hoped to escape. Rain lashed against Lisa's skin, each drop a frigid reminder of the chaos she had just escaped. The wind howled, erasing the last remnants of calm, and she pushed through the darkness, heart pounding, thoughts of Ethan pulling her forward. How could she warn him? The school loomed ahead, silhouetted against the backdrop of lightning, its windows glinting like hollow eyes watching her move. Breathless, she stumbled over uneven pavement, desperate to break the distance between her and the horrors inside. Guilt gnawed at her as sharp as the cold she had left Ethan behind. He didn't know what he was facing, what Mr. Sullivan had claimed. The ominous shadows of the past enveloped her, taunting her with the unknown. The school's entrance was eerily illuminated by flickers of light dancing across the sky. She pushed the door open, the mechanical click sounding far too loud in the suffocating silence of the hallway. The air was stale, thick with dread, as if the building itself held its breath in anticipation of her arrival. Ethan! She called, voice echoing off the lockers that seemed to lean in, as if eavesdropping, yearning for secrets to be unearthed. No answer. Just the faint hum of the fluorescent lights above, flickering like a heartbeat in pain. Every step felt heavier, anxiety clawing at her throat. Shadows stretched in the corners, and she could swear they were alive, moving with a mind of their own. She rushed down the familiar halls, past classrooms where students had once laughed, hints of their voices lingering like phantoms. What really lay hidden here? The thought chilled her. She reached the basement door, where every instinct screamed for her to turn back. But she pushed forward, slinging the door open with a defiance she didn't feel. The basement was darker than the rest of the school, as if light itself dared not venture there. An unsettling stillness surrounded her, and she could hear a soft whispering, a susurration that felt as real as the thunder rumbling outside. "Ethan!" she shouted again, more desperate this time. Then, a flicker of movement caught her eye, and her heart raced. A figure was there, no, two. They were too still, almost like shadows forgotten by the light. Lisa stepped closer, heart thundering against her ribs, and as she did, she recognized them. Ethan. And beside him was a girl she vaguely remembered, one from that last field trip, the one who had gone missing weeks ago. Samantha. Their faces were pale, eyes wide and unseeing. They looked as if they were trapped in a trance, staring blankly at a wall cloaked in darkness. She felt a chill crawl up her spine, a mix of disbelief and terror. "Ethan! Snap out of it!" She reached for him, and the moment her fingers brushed his shoulder, a wave of cold washed over her, like stepping into icy water, and then she saw it. A door behind them, slightly ajar, a dull crimson light bleeding through the cracks. It pulsed like a heartbeat, rhythmic and steady, drawing her in. Was this the door he had found? The one Mr. Sullivan warned about? "Ethan! We have to go." But her shout was drowned out by an unearthly sound, a deep growl that reverberated through the walls. The whispering grew louder, now an incoherent cacophony, wrapping around her like tendrils of smoke, pulling her closer to the threshold of the door. "Help us!" Samantha croaked, her voice distant, barely above a whisper lost in the chaos. It felt as if the shadows climbed higher, suffocating the air around them. Lisa's instinct screamed at her to flee, to save herself, but the sight of Ethan, his vacant eyes, the almost lifeless grip of his hand kept her rooted to the spot. Time stretched, the growling intensifying, a promise of horrors yet to unfold. This was not just about her anymore. This was bigger. "Lisa!" Ethan's voice broke through the noise, barely audible. "Help it!" And the door began to creak open, slowly, revealing more of the crimson light that spilled like blood onto the floor. A figure moved inside, and she caught a glimpse of something monstrous, something beyond comprehension. In that moment, a choice crystallized in Lisa's mind. Would she risk it all to pull them back from the brink, or would she turn and run? As the darkness beckoned, she stood frozen, breath mingling with the storm, each heartbeat a countdown to the unknown. What haunted truths awaited her beyond that threshold? The crimson light pulsed like a living organism, each throb luring Lisa deeper into its grasp. The weight of dread was suffocating, pressing down on her, urging her to turn back. But Ethan's voice was a lifeline amidst the chaos, and she gripped his shoulder tighter, desperation sparking a flicker of resolve within her. "Ethan! Fight it!" she pleaded, her voice laced with urgency. She glanced at Samantha, her gaze a mirror of hollow fear, and then back to Ethan, who seemed to teeter on the edge of consciousness. The growl grew deeper, a rumble from the depths of the abyss beyond the door. She had to make a choice: stay and risk everything, or break free from the dark, but retreat was not an option. Adrian's warning echoed in her mind: powers lay dormant, and some doors were better left shut. What had happened to those who had dared disturb the silence? "Help!" Ethan's voice wavered again, barely a breath. The shadows cast their long fingers, claiming the corners of the basement like hunters tracking prey. With a surge of resolve, Lisa took a step forward. "We're getting out of here." She grasped their wrists, trying to pull them toward her, but the coldness of their skin froze her touch. Cold radiated from Samantha like a thick shroud, and for a moment, Lisa hesitated. What had they seen? What had they experienced in this wretched place? The growl escalated into a roar, shaking the walls, a furious warning. The air shifted, charged with a malice so palpable it pierced her thoughts. If she didn't act fast, it would consume them all. "Come on!" Lisa shouted, urgency consuming her, as she yanked harder. "You're not lost. Ethan, you're not lost." But the shadows lashed out, twisting around Ethan and Samantha. They were bound by unseen chains, their eyes glazed over like remnants of a terrible nightmare, whispers rising like steam, filling her head with fears she could hardly comprehend. As she pulled, the dark figure beyond the door slithered closer, skinless and grotesque, a mockery of humanity with hollow eyes that reflected more darkness. Lisa stumbled back in horror, her heart racing, bile creeping up her throat. In that fleeting moment, she understood they weren't the only ones trapped. It wanted her too. Desperation clawed at her. Ethan! Fight it! She felt her own resolve begin to crack as the shadows swirled, advancing like predators seizing their prey. She could hear a chant weaving through the air, a malevolent chorus that wrapped itself around her, echoing the terrified screams of the lost. And then she saw it, bright red scars creeping up Ethan's arms, identical marks carved into Samantha's pale skin. These were not mere shadows, this was a part of something ancient and evil. It's feeding off you. Lisa screamed, recoiling in horror as she understood what they faced. Lisa, Ethan whispered, fighting against the grip of the darkness, his voice a rasp that pleaded for help. Don't let it take you to. The crimson glow intensified, threatening to swallow Lisa whole. She realized that the door was a trap, not a way out. Staying would mean surrender, but leaving them behind felt impossible. The growl morphed into a shriek, piercing through the air like glass shattering. In that moment of stark clarity, she knew what she had to do. If she wanted to save them, the fight had to begin now. Grab onto me! She shouted as she lunged toward the door, channeling every ounce of strength. With one final surge, she sprinted toward the glowing portal, dragging Ethan and Samantha behind her. The shadows lashed out, striking her like shards of ice, but she pushed through. Pain shot through her, but the thought of losing Ethan fueled her. But just as they crossed the threshold, everything stopped. Time hung frozen in the air, a heartbeat of silence, before chaos erupted anew. The darkness shrieked louder than ever before, and in that moment, Lisa realized the cost of her choice. As the door slammed shut behind them, the noise abruptly ceased. She gasped, the sudden quiet suffocating. But the horror was far from over. The basement around her flickered into view, different now. The walls pulsed, shadows shifting like serpents, and the light morphed. Ethan's hand slipped from hers, his eyes wide and unfocused. It was as if the shadows were reaching out all over again. Lisa, it's not over, and the walls began to close in. What had she unleashed? The chill of despair clawed at her again as fear coiled tighter. They were back in the basement, but it felt different, alive, hungry, and waiting. She turned to Ethan. We have to figure out a way out, she urged, dread pooling in her stomach. Before it comes for us. But behind them, the door vibrated ominously, the shadows whispering their secrets, promising more horror to come. Would they be able to escape the madness that had just begun? What awaited them in the darkness? Lisa's pulse raced, the darkness feeling like it was breathing around them, tightening with every heartbeat. Ethan stood motionless, his breath shallow as shadows writhed at his ankles, creeping up his legs like fog rolling in from the ocean. Samantha was still by his side, her gaze unfocused and glazed, as if a veil of terror hung over her. Ethan! Lisa shouted, her voice cracking as panic tugged at her throat. We have to move. She glanced around. The familiar basement was transformed, walls pulsed like living flesh, and the floor felt unsteady, as if it throbbed with some hidden heartbeat. Cold drafts coursed through the room, swirling around her, carrying faint echoes of laughter that twisted into sinister cackles. Ethan blinked, as if waking from a deep sleep. What happened? His voice trembled, confusion flickering in his eyes, but the glaze was still there. It's everywhere, no. Lisa shouted, determination flooding her. You're not lost. None of us are. Remember what we saw? She stepped forward, only to stumble as the ground bucked beneath her. Didn't the shadows recognize her resolve? Didn't they feel the fire in her heart pushing back? But the darkness swirled more violently, and the whispers grew louder, 1,000 voices tangled together in a menacing choir. Did they taunt her, or were they warning her? Get away from him. Lisa lunged toward Ethan, but the shadows surged, leaping as if alive, wrapping around her arms and pulling her back. She screamed, clawing at the air, her nails nicking the cool surface before they were yanked away. "Lisa!" Ethan cried, stretching out his hand as the shadows jerked him closer to the wall, their teeth snapping at his skin. The red scars on his arms oozed, thick and dark, like they were sucking the life out of him. There was a primal fear in the back of her mind, a sense of something fundamentally wrong. This place was a trap, a hungry maw poised to consume them. But they had to break free, had to escape the demon that lived in the dark. Fight it. Fight the darkness. Lisa screamed, desperation making her voice reverberate through the cursed basement. The shadows hesitated, just for a moment. There was a flicker. Ethan's eyes momentarily cleared. "I see it. I see it." He gasped. "Lisa, it wants us to give in. It wants to feed on our fear." His words struck Lisa with cold clarity. The fear wasn't just surrounding them, it was inside them. They had to confront it or be devoured. "We're stronger than this," she shouted. The shadows writhed, letting out a shriek that echoed painfully in her ears. The walls pulsed like a heart in agony, and the whispers grew into gibbering howls of madness. Samantha, for the first time, moved. "I want to let it take me," she shouted, standing firm. "I want to be devoured." With a fierce roar, she whipped her arms, cutting through the shadows that wrapped around her. "Together!" Lisa cried, pushing through the blackness that clutched her limbs. There was strength in their unity, a flicker of defiance sparking between them, one that seemed to repel the tendrils of darkness weaving ever closer. They rushed forward, arms outstretched, screaming against the roar. "Push it back!" Lisa roared, and the energy of their collective voices surged. For a moment, the darkness faltered. A crack appeared in the ceiling, light breaking through, pouring down around them like a shower of stars. It felt warm, caressing. But just as quickly as it appeared, the shadows retaliated, coiling around the light, greedily absorbing it. "What do we do?" Ethan gasped, panic rising again as the brightness began to dim. "Hold on," Lisa shouted, thrusting her hands toward the flickering light. "We must believe. Believe we can fight this." The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage as they surged again. They were relentless, sensing the flicker of hope, intent on extinguishing it completely. But Lisa could feel the strength of her friends behind her, the warmth of their hands connecting, creating a barrier against the cold. "Don't look back. We can't give up." They pressed forward, but the shadows snapped tighter, and Lisa felt her heartbeat fading along with the light. What if this was it? What if they could break free, or would the darkness consume them whole? As the ceiling began to crack, light spilling in like a flood, Lisa realized the truth: they weren't just battling the darkness outside. They were battling the darkness within. "Fight for each other," she cried, and the very fabric of her resolve boiled inside her, but from behind, a more sinister whisper curled around their minds, echoing one last time. "You will never escape. You will always belong to the darkness." With that, a loud snap cracked through the room, and the light flickered severely. The world around them began to fracture, the basement warping outward, threatening to implode in on itself, taking them with it. Lisa's breath hitched. What awaited them on the other side? She had a sinking feeling this was merely the beginning. "Hold on," she shouted, battling against the void pulling them apart. Would they make it through this unscathed? Or would they find themselves trapped anew, lost to a darkness deeper than before? Lisa felt the air thin, the pressure mounting as if they were being sucked into a black vortex. Faces flashed through her mind: friends, family, moments of laughter, but they were swallowed by the encroaching shadows. She grasped Ethan's hand tight, a lifeline tethering her to reality. "Stay with me. Don't let go." The darkness roared, and the crack in the ceiling yawned wider, light spilling through like a desperate plea from above. It illuminated the basement for a fleeting second, a glimpse of the cramped space, old boxes stacked haphazardly, and the grotesque faces of the shadows swirling around. They were twisted and gnarled, mocking them, relishing in their fear. Samantha was at Ethan's side now, her face pale, reflecting the cold light. "What if it takes us?" she whispered, her legs trembled like leaves in a storm. "It won't. We won't let it," Lisa shouted, and she felt their collective fear begin to shape into something more powerful, a force ready to push back, ready to fight. With one final push, Lisa surged forward, her heart beating like a war drum. "We are not afraid. We aren't letting you win." The shadows shrieked, a sound that bit deep into her bones, but she pressed on, feeling the heat of the light mix with the desperation of her friends. Yet the shadows lunged, twisting tighter around Ethan and Samantha. Lisa stumbled, fighting against the black tendrils snaking up her arms. One claw grazed her cheek, a cold burn, and she gasped, feeling her strength waver. "Ethan!" Samantha screamed, her voice splattering against hysteria. The shadows had begun pulling him away, his body jerking as if stuck in a chilling nightmare. "No! We're here. Fight it, Ethan!" Lisa cried, her voice raw. She focused on Ethan's face, desperate to see his eyes break free of the glaze. With an intense effort, Ethan blinked rapidly. "Lisa," he struggled, straining against the shadows. I can't hold on." The basement shook violently, as if the building itself was cracking under the weight of the dread holding its walls together. "Just hold on," Lisa urged, mustering every ounce of faith she could find. The bright light streaming from above flickered again, but with it, Lisa felt a rush of determination surge through her like hot blood in her veins. As if sensing the shift, the shadows recoiled, snarling, churning. "We will consume your souls," they wailed, and for a moment, their voices intertwined with her own dread, filling her mind with images of despair. But Lisa faced it. "No. We're stronger together. We refuse." In that instant, their hands connected, hers to Ethan's to Samantha's. They formed a circle, a binding chain of warmth and life. "Remember the light," Lisa shouted, and the very air trembled at her words, shimmering with their union. It was a raw energy, an echo of all the love and laughter they had in their lives. The darkness began to swirl around them, trying to invade their minds again, but this time, they were ready. With one long breath, they pushed all their fear, their hopes, and their collective will into a singular moment. "Get out!" They roared together. For a heartbeat, it felt as if the entire basement paused, caught under their combined will. The shadows lurched, their horrific forms contorting as they screeched in pain, thrashing against the power breaking through the darkness. Then, the light burst forth, piercing through like an explosion of stars. The shadows shrieked, flailing back, mixing with the blinding glow, and suddenly, the weight on their bodies began to dissolve. Lisa shielded her eyes, feeling visions of her life flash like lightning in her mind. But as the intensity around them shifted, she dared to glance towards Ethan and Samantha, who were caught in the brilliance. Everything exploded, colors cascaded and shapes blurred, then silence. With an alarming thud, the chaos surged and peeled away, leaving a yawning emptiness behind. Lisa blinked as the world slowly slid into focus around her, but it wasn't the basement anymore. "You all right?" A familiar voice echoed, ripping through the stillness. But there was a chill in her spine, and a looming shadow flickered at the edges of her vision. "Where are we?" Lisa stammered, confusion wrapping around her like a shroud. The air was thick with the scent of smoke, an acrid reminder of fear lingering. Ethan rubbed his head, looking dazed. "I don't know, but something feels wrong." Like a trap, Samantha's voice was barely more than a whisper, her eyes darting around, scanning their surroundings. As Lisa looked around, she sensed they weren't alone. A figure emerged from the clouds of smoke, standing at the edge of the light, watching them with eyes that glinted with malice. Familiar, yet alien. What now? Lisa thought, heart hammering against her ribcage. The figure stepped forward, and a twisted smile broke across its face. Welcome to my domain. You thought you escaped? This is only the beginning. Panic surged within her, an instinctual urge to run, but there was nowhere to go. As the darkness lingered and the smile widened, she could feel another wave of dread crash through her. We're not done yet, she whispered, steeling her resolve. But the question was, who would emerge victorious in this twisted game of terror? And what other horrors awaited them? The figure's voice dripped with a sinister charm that felt like ice coursing through Lisa's veins. She could barely process the threat in front of her, yet the presence felt hauntingly reminiscent of something lost to time. Her pulse raced, and she tightened her grip on Ethan's hand, feeling each heartbeat echoing with fear. Stay close, she murmured, barely able to keep her voice steady. The fog thickened around them, a swirling haze swallowing any remaining semblance of safety. What do you want from us? Samantha shouted, her voice trembling like a fragile thread. The figure only chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down Lisa's spine. It moved closer, stepping into the pale light, and Lisa finally recognized the features. It was a distorted version of her own face, warped by malice and violence. You've proven resilient, but here, you are nothing, the figure taunted, its voice each word a blade. I feed on despair, and you have plenty. Lisa's chest tightened. We won't give you anything. With those words, she could sense the flicker of their shared strength, but it felt brittle. The shadowy figure merely chuckled again, the sound oozing with disdain. It extended a long finger towards the trio, and the air sizzled with tension. Let us play a little game, shall we? It proposed, a condescending lilt in its tone that set Lisa's nerves seething. A game of truth. If you win, I'll release you. If you lose, well, let us just say, I'll add you to my collection. The fog around them thickened. Lisa felt Samantha's hand tremble in her grip. What does that even mean? She could feel the panic bubbling again, clawing at the edges of her mind. What are the rules? Ethan asked, voice steady despite the fear lurking behind it. Simple. Answer my questions. The figure's smile widened. But who you are and what you value will determine if you survive. Just tell us what you want. Samantha cried, frustration spilling over. First question, the figure hissed, eyes shimmering with a malice that almost whispered her secrets. What is your greatest fear? Choose wisely, you might just reveal too much. Lisa felt sweat bead at her temples. It was a question that dug deep, clawing through layers of denial. A darkness crept closer, drawing out suppressed terrors. The shadows pulsed with anticipation as if they thrived off their hesitation. Fear, it's personal, Ethan said, words taught with thought. Losing you, losing this. Boring. The figure scoffed. Next. Lisa's heart raced. Every second felt like a battle against the grabbing tendrils of dark, echoing shadows around them. I fear never being free, she blurted, surprised at her own honesty. Interesting, it replied, amusement dancing in its malevolent gaze. Samantha stood, trembling. My fear? It's the dark, and what hides within it. Oh, how original. The figure laughed, mocking. But I'm afraid all your answers have been unsatisfactory. And suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted. The figures in shadows, their faces twisted, laughed along with their master. No! Lisa shouted. Please, give us another chance. But the figure raised a hand, silencing them. One last question. What are you willing to sacrifice to escape? The air crackled with energy, the weight of the moment crashing down on them like a storm. Each of them stewed in their thoughts, and Lisa felt the ground start to tremble underfoot, the shadows circling like wolves. Ethan's voice broke through the tension, each other we would sacrifice for each other. Lisa's heart sank. There it was, a glimmer of both love and dread. But was this a trap? such noble sentiments. The figure smirked like it knew a secret they did not. Now let us see how long that lasts. As twisted laughter surrounded them, Lisa felt darkness stab deeper into her heart. What could possibly emerge from this sinister game? Was there hope, or just the promise of insatiable despair? The ground quaked, and the shadows lunged. Before she could even scream, the world collapsed into chaos, pulling them apart into a whirl of darkness. What would they give up? What remained of them? The question hung heavily in the air, unanswered and suffocating. The darkness swallowed them whole. Lisa felt herself being yanked apart, as if she was being torn from the threads of reality. The pressure was unbearable. She gasped, her breath stolen by an unseen force as shadows clawed at her mind, whispering her worst fears, then, silence. As the chaos dissipated, she found herself in a different world, one that felt eerily familiar yet uninviting. The fog was gone, replaced by a dimly lit room, walls lined with peeling wallpaper, their dark patterns swirling like a waking nightmare. Faint whispers echoed in the corners, tugging at her consciousness. Ethan? Samantha? No reply. Panic gripped her as she turned, her heart thudding like a warning drum. Alone. Just when she thought she'd escape to a safe corner of her reality, she realized this new place felt more sinister than before. Her pulse quickened, and dread seeped into her bones. She stumbled forward, desperate to find her friends, but the air around her thickened, each step like wading through a tar pit. Shadows danced in her periphery, flickering and fading but never leaving her sight. An overwhelming sense of being watched slithered up her spine. Where are you? She called out again, her voice stronger now despite the tremors inside her. A feeble light flickered above, revealing glimpses of a room, a child's bedroom, maybe once filled with laughter and warmth. Dust motes floated in the air, but even the dust seemed afraid, only daring to hover in the thin beam of light. A single rocking chair creaked in the corner, swaying as if a child had just left it, and then, almost too quiet to perceive, she heard it, a faint cry. Lisa, Ethan's voice. She bolted toward it, but the moment she stepped closer, the room warped around her. Hallways stretched infinitely, painting a picture of twisted reality. She felt like she was spiraling down a rabbit hole where time and space didn't obey the laws she knew. Ethan! She screamed, her voice echoing back at her, thick with confusion and despair. The shadows lurked nearer, ready to pounce. They were alive with malice, and they fed off her rising fear. She raced down the corridor, the cries growing louder, echoing in rhythm with her frantic heartbeat. Suddenly, she rounded a corner and stumbled into a small playroom. The walls were plastered with cheerful drawings. Cribs stood empty. Toys lay scattered, dusty and forgotten. Yet, the ambience was oppressively heavy, like a storm poised to strike. Help! It was Samantha. Lisa darted toward the sound, her heart racing with hope and terror. As she approached an open door at the far end, shadows writhed and reached out, as if trying to snag her ankles, pulling her back. She gritted her teeth, pressing on, her will stronger than fear, but when she burst through the door, she froze. Samantha sat in a corner, a doll in her grip, her wide eyes staring blankly. She looked so young, so lost. Lisa rushed to her, but as she touched her shoulder, Samantha screamed, jerking away. No! Stay back! She cried, her voice trembling in terror. No! Sam! It's me! But Samantha's expression didn't change. She backed away further, trembling as she pressed against the far wall, shaking her head. Get it away! Get away! And then it hit Lisa. That dreaded figure, the harsh laughter, the questions, it was here. Not merely in the shadows, but crawling inside them. Ethan! Lisa yelled, the need to find him now pressing hard against her chest, a frantic pulse. In that very moment, Samantha locked eyes with her, fear beastly in its intensity. It's feeding on us, we have to. But before she could finish, the darkness erupted an explosion of shadow, laughter echoing like a taunt. It surrounded them, swallowing up every glimmer of light. What lay beyond the shadows? With a gut-wrenching scream, Lisa snatched Samantha's hand, a desperate attempt to flee. But a sudden force yanked them both back, tightening like a vice around their throats, leaving them breathless in the suffocating gloom. Were they doomed to become another haunting whisper in the twisted dark? As they fought against the pull, desperately holding on to each other, Lisa felt uncertainty closing in like a noose. What darkness would they have to face next? Would Ethan find them before it was too late? The shadows slipped closer, eager to receive their next offering. The shadows tightened their grip, a clammy dread wrapping around Lisa and Samantha like a shroud. Lisa could feel her heart racing, thrumming against her ribs like a desperate prisoner trying to escape. She struggled against the dark force pulling them deeper, gasping as a cold breath washed over her, whispering dark secrets in her ear. "Hold on, Sam. We need to break free." The darkness pulsed, as if mocking her plea, recoiling briefly before pressing forward again. The dim light above flickered wildly, throwing their silhouettes against the walls, distorted and grotesque. Lisa felt Samantha's hand turning cold, gripped tightly in her palm. No, we can't stay here," Samantha cried, her eyes glistening with unshed tears, glancing around as if the walls had ears. A low, rumbling laughter reverberated from the shadows, seeping into the very air they breathed. "Stay where you are, nothing can save you now." Instinctively, Lisa leaned into the darkness, trying to listen, trying to learn its rhythm. She sensed there was a way out, a hidden thread to lead them back to Ethan. "Find the light," she yelled, channeling everything she had into her voice. Samantha nodded, fear still etched across her face. They stumbled together, dragging their feet as the darkness clawed at them. The weight of it pressed like a physical force, pushing against their chests. Just ahead, a door loomed, glimmering faintly, an enticing promise in the smothering night. "This way," Lisa urged, desperation igniting her legs. They sprinted toward the door, the laughter turning bitter and angry, echoing louder as if warning them of the consequences. Shadows swirled around their feet, trying to trip them, but they charged forward, a bright resolve blazing in their hearts. As they reached the door, it creaked open. Beyond was a swirling mist tinged with soft, golden light, a stark contrast to the oppressive dark they'd just fought against. Lisa pushed them both through, and the moment they crossed the threshold, the shadows halted, howling in a haunting fit of rage. They stumbled into what felt like an ancient library, lined with towering shelves stuffed full of dusty tomes. The scent of aged paper and something rich and earthy filled the air. "Ethan!" Lisa called out, her voice echoing through the sprawling room. Books tumbled to the floor as she raced down the narrow aisles, searching. "Maybe he's in here," Samantha whispered, but her voice quivered with uncertainty. "Ethan!" she cried again, scanning the dimly lit room. But the space seemed empty, too vast, too silent. Shadows lingered in the corners, watching, waiting, their edges flickering menacingly as if teasing their every move. Suddenly, an old book slid off the shelf beside Lisa, hitting the floor with a resonant thud that echoed ominously. The sound jolted her, and she slowly bent to pick it up. "What is it?" Samantha breathed, hovering close, eyes darting nervously. As Lisa brushed the dust off the cover, her breath caught in her throat. The title read, "The Lost Souls, Tales of Darkness and Deception." She flipped it open, and her skin prickled as she gazed upon the first page. It was a collection of names, and one name stood out, glowing as if alive. "Ethan, no," Samantha gasped, peering over her shoulder, and in that moment, the flashes of light began to dim, plunging the room into deeper shadows. The pages started turning wildly as whispers swirled around them, each syllable a dark chant igniting terror in her heart. Their eyes locked, wide with horror, then the light flickered, and the whispers fell to a deafening silence, pinning them in place. What dark fate awaited them now? "Lisa, look!" Samantha's voice trembled as she pointed toward the back of the library, where a faint glow beckoned like a siren-esque call. It pulsed invitingly, but shadows writhed and clawed at the light, trying to snuff it out. Should they take the risk and venture further? Light and dark hung in the balance, each moment stretching into eternity. But what other horrors awaited them if they remained? Lisa's heart pounded as she met Samantha's gaze, uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog. "We have to go towards the light," she said, her voice steady against the turmoil. "It's our only chance." Samantha hesitated, but the determination glinting in Lisa's eyes ignited a spark of hope. Together, they stepped cautiously toward the soft glow, the light beckoning as if it held the answers they desperately sought. Shadows shrieked, swirling around their ankles, trying to anchor them back into the darkness. The library itself seemed to tremble with malevolent energy, whispering secrets that chilled Lisa to the core. "Stay close," she urged, her grip tight on Samantha's hand as they pushed through the consuming gloom. With each step, the intensity of the light grew, pushing back against the oppressive darkness threatening to envelop them once again. "Do you think Ethan is there?" Samantha asked, her voice trembling on the edges of fear. "I don't know," Lisa replied, her stomach twisting. "But we have to find him. If he's in danger." Her voice trailed off, thick with dread. As they neared the source of light, it transformed, revealing a shimmering portal, a swirling vortex of energy filled with colors bursting to life. Both girls could feel its pull, urging them to enter, to escape the grasp of the shadows behind. But the cost of stepping into the unknown weighed heavily on their hearts. "Together?" Samantha asked, seeking affirmation. "Forever," Lisa replied, her voice strong. Just as they took the final steps into the light, a guttural roar shattered the silence, echoing like thunder across the library. The shadows retaliated, lashing out, yearning to reclaim what they had lost. "No!" The scream tore from Lisa's throat as tendrils of darkness lunged, wrapping around her legs, pulling her back. She gritted her teeth, refusing to succumb, mustering every ounce of strength. "Don't let go!" she cried out, hoping that Samantha was still there. In a blink, they were engulfed. The light shimmered like a dream, flickering uncertainly, but she felt Samantha's grip tightening around her hand, anchoring her resolve. "We can do this!" Lisa shouted, determination flooding her veins, rallying against the encroaching dark. With a final surge, they burst through the portal, the shadows clawing at their heels, only to find themselves in a new realm. They landed on soft grass, breathing in the fresh, clean air of freedom. The sun shone brightly overhead, a stark contrast to the murky darkness they just escaped. "Where are we?" Samantha gasped, looking around at the tranquil landscape filled with blooming flowers and vibrant trees. "It feels safe," Lisa said, relief flooding her body. But a glance back at the lingering shadows at the edge of the light caused her heart to lurch. How much longer would it hold? "Ethan! Where are you?" Lisa shouted, scanning their surroundings. "Ethan!" With no reply echoing in the serene air, panic clutched at her heart again. Was he still trapped in that twisted library? Had they lost him? "Look!" Samantha cried, pointing towards a solitary figure emerging from the treeline, a silhouette brimming with familiarity. "Ethan!" Lisa rushed forward, a surge of hope mingled with fear. As he stepped closer, her breath hitched at the clarity in his eyes, yet a shadow lingered on his face, a remnant of the darkness they all feared. "Lisa, Samantha," he began, his voice shaky but stable. "You made it. We thought we lost you." Lisa embraced him tightly, relief flooding through her. "What happened?" I felt the dark pulling." Ethan took a deep breath. "But I remembered your voices. I fought it." Samantha stepped closer, relief washing over her. "We all fought it together," she said, tears of joy welling in her eyes. For a moment, tranquility radiated between them, a shield against any remnants of fear, but deep in the shadows, a dark presence lingered, the ominous laughter echoing like a haunting melody. The whispering shadows had not been defeated, they had only retreated. "We have to stay strong," Lisa said, determination flickering anew. If we face the darkness together, we can keep it at bay. They always try to pull us back, but we can fight together. Ethan and Samantha nodded, solidarity blazing in their resolve. They knew the battle was far from over. Darkness truly tested the bonds of trust and love. As they stood together against the soft breeze, the weight of their experience forged a connection stronger than fear. They were not just survivors, they were warriors against the dark that wished to claim them. The dawn was breaking through the trees, painting the sky with hues of gold and orange as light eclipsed shadow. "Let us go home," Lisa urged, glancing back at the warmth of the sun embracing them together. And with that, they stepped forward, a trio united against the darkness, determined to face whatever awaited them in the light beyond. The journey was theirs to shape, and while shadows lurked, friendship would guide them through the storm. Now, we've reached the end of this intense tale, and we need to keep the momentum going. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exciting stories. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and support us. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this all concludes. Your support means everything.